It started with a plain white envelope tucked between her monthly bills. No return address, no markings, just her name written in delicate, almost old-fashioned handwriting. Evelyn Morris, a retired high school drama teacher, turned the envelope over in her hands a few times before carefully opening it. Inside was a single ivory card with elegant gold lettering. You are cordially invited to a special tribute event in Los Angeles. Formal attire. Details enclosed. That was it. No mention of who it was from. No explanation of why she'd been chosen. At first, Evelyn assumed it was a mistake. Maybe someone sent it to the wrong Evelyn Morris. After all, she lived a quiet life now, far removed from the buzzing lights of any red carpet. Her days were filled with reading, tending to her garden, and the occasional phone call from a former student. But something about the invitation tugged at her heart. Maybe it was curiosity, or something deeper. A whisper of a feeling she couldn't quite name. With a hesitant breath, she placed the card on her table and looked out the window. She didn't know it yet, but saying yes to that invitation would change everything. Years ago, Evelyn Morris was the heart and soul of a small-town high school drama department. The school was old, the seats worn, and the budget tight, but Evelyn's passion filled the dusty auditorium every afternoon. She believed in every student who walked through those doors, even the ones who felt invisible to everyone else. One of those students was a boy named Johnny. He wasn't like the others, quiet and shy, with wild, unkempt hair and a streak of rebellion that made teachers wary. Johnny had a restless energy. He often drifted through classes, his mind somewhere far away. Many saw him as a troublemaker, someone who didn't care, who would never amount to much. But Evelyn saw something different. She saw a spark, something bright and raw that no one else could see. Behind those guarded eyes was a boy with a hunger to express himself, to escape the small town that boxed him in. Evelyn made it her mission to help him find his voice. After school, she stayed late, working with him on scripts, encouraging him to pour his feelings into the characters. She challenged him to believe in something bigger than himself, to dream beyond the narrow streets and familiar faces. Acting isn't just pretending, she'd tell him softly. It's about telling the truth. Your truth. Johnny listened. Sometimes he was frustrated and he pushed back. But Evelyn never gave up. She believed that if she could help him see his own worth, he could change his story. She remembered the day he finally smiled after nailing a difficult scene, the first time she saw real pride on his face. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to both of them. Though the years passed and Johnny left their little town behind, Evelyn never forgot that boy. She often wondered where life had taken him, hoping he found the happiness and freedom she always believed he deserved. Little did she know, that boy was about to change her life in a way she never imagined. Evelyn's love for the theater began long before she became a teacher. As a young woman, she dreamed of stepping onto the big stage, of feeling the spotlight warm her face as she told stories that moved audiences. But life had other plans. When her father fell ill and her mother struggled to keep the family afloat, Evelyn set her dreams aside. She stayed close to home, taking odd jobs and eventually becoming a teacher so she could support her family while still holding on to the world of drama she loved. Her own hopes quietly faded into the background, replaced by the daily demands of lesson plans, parent-teacher meetings, and endless paperwork. Yet, every day after the final bell rang, Evelyn poured her heart into the theater program. She was the first to arrive and the last to leave, spending countless evenings helping students memorize lines, design sets, or find confidence in themselves. Many didn't realize the sacrifices she made behind the scenes, the long hours, the small paycheck, and the loneliness of a life dedicated to others. Her work was often unnoticed, her efforts taken for granted, but Evelyn never sought applause or praise. Her passion was teaching, helping young people discover their voices, believe in themselves, and dream bigger than they thought possible. Even when the school budget was cut, or parents questioned her methods, she held firm. The theater was more than just a class, it was a place of hope, a refuge for those like Johnny who didn't quite fit in anywhere else. Despite the challenges, Evelyn never lost her love for the stage. She knew that through her students, a part of her own dream lived on, and she hoped that somehow those quiet sacrifices would make a difference in the world, one young life at a time. The night air was thick with the buzz of excitement as Evelyn stepped out of the taxi. The building before her gleamed under the bright lights of Los Angeles, its glass walls reflecting the endless crowd gathering inside. She clutched her invitation tightly, suddenly feeling very small and out of place. Dressed in her best, an elegant but simple dress, she took a deep breath and entered the grand lobby. Everywhere she looked, she saw glamorous faces, flashing cameras and sparkling gowns. This world was so far from the quiet halls of her old high school, it made her heart race with nerves. Evelyn moved through the crowd, trying to find her name on the seating chart displayed near the entrance. But to her surprise, her name wasn't there. She checked again just to be sure. No Evelyn Morris. A cold wave of doubt washed over her. Had she made a mistake coming here? Was this invitation some kind of prank? She thought about turning around, slipping quietly out the door, and going back to the comfort of her simple life. Just as she was about to leave, a young woman in a sleek black suit approached her. "Miss Morris, we've been expecting you," the assistant said, flashing a warm smile. Evelyn blinked, caught off guard. "I couldn't find my name on the list," she replied, still unsure if she could trust this stranger. The assistant nodded. "That's because your seat is special. Please follow me." Curiosity mixed with a flutter of hope in Evelyn's chest. She followed the assistant through sparkling hallways, past glittering guests and the hum of conversation. Soon they arrived at a private section near the front, away from the crowd. The seats were plush, the view perfect. Evelyn's heart pounded. Who had invited her here? And why? She settled into her seat, her mind racing with questions. What was about to happen tonight? She had no idea that this night would be one she and the entire audience would never forget. The lights dimmed and a hush fell over the room. Evelyn's breath caught as the curtain slowly rose, revealing a beautifully decorated stage bathed in warm gold light. Soft music played, setting the tone for what felt like a very special evening. A smooth voice came over the speakers, welcoming everyone to a tribute show unlike any other, a celebration of the unsung heroes behind the scenes of the entertainment world. These were the people whose names rarely made headlines, but whose impact shaped the magic on screen and stage. Famous actors, directors, writers, and producers appeared one after another, each stepping up to honor someone important to them: mentors, teachers, coaches, and those who had believed in them when no one else did. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, applause, and sometimes tears. Evelyn watched, fascinated. She recognized some of the celebrities, though none of this world felt quite like her own. She smiled as heartfelt stories unfolded, stories of struggle, hope, and gratitude. Still, the question lingered in her mind: why was she here? She scanned the room, hoping for a clue, but no one approached or even glanced her way. She was just one face in a sea of faces. As the show went on, Evelyn found herself swept up in the emotions of the night. She felt a strange connection to these stories. Each tale of someone who had been lifted up by a kind word, a gentle push, or a firm belief reminded her of her own quiet work back home. Yet, despite the warmth in her chest, a small part of her ached with uncertainty. Was she truly meant to be here, or was this just an elaborate event she had stumbled into? The crowd waited expectantly as the next speaker was introduced. When Johnny Depp walked onto the stage, the room erupted with cheers. But what he said next would change everything. Especially for Evelyn. When Johnny Depp stepped onto the stage, the applause was deafening. The crowd rose to their feet, their cheers filling the room like thunder. But tonight, Johnny wasn't dressed as a pirate or a rocker. He wore simple clothes, just himself. No costumes, no makeup, no masks. The lights focused on him, and the noise slowly softened as everyone waited for the usual Hollywood speech: thank yous, jokes, and maybe a few words about his career. But Johnny's voice was quiet at first, steady and sincere. "Tonight," he began, "I want to tell you a story about someone very special, someone who changed my life, though many of you may never have heard her name." The room grew still. People leaned in, curious. "I wasn't always the person you see today," he said, eyes scanning the crowd. "There was a time when I was lost, angry, and unsure if I even had a future. I felt invisible, like I didn't belong anywhere." He paused, taking a breath. "But then there was a woman, a teacher who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She didn't judge me, she didn't push me away. Instead, she stayed by my side, helped me find my voice, and believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Johnny's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I never forgot her kindness. It gave me the strength to keep going, to chase my dreams, even when everything seemed impossible. He smiled softly but still didn't say her name. The audience was silent, waiting for him to reveal who this woman was. Evelyn's heart raced, a strange feeling bubbling up inside her. Could he be talking about her? But the story wasn't over yet. There was more to come, something none of them expected. Johnny's voice softened, filled with a quiet honesty that touched everyone in the room. I wasn't always the confident person you see now, he said. When I was younger, I struggled more than most people knew. I felt like I was fighting against the world, and sometimes against myself. He spoke of his troubled youth, the confusion, the anger, the feeling that no one truly understood him. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed. Days when I thought I was too broken to fix. But then, he continued, there was someone who saw past all that. A teacher who refused to give up on me, even when I was at my worst. Johnny's eyes glistened as he shared a memory he'd kept close to his heart. I remember one afternoon, after school, when she handed me a worn piece of paper. It was a poem, something she'd written herself. She told me it was about hope, about finding light in the darkest places. That poem stayed with me through every hard moment. He paused, letting the silence speak for a moment. There was another time, he said, voice breaking slightly, when I was close to being expelled. I had made a mistake, one that could have ended everything for me. But she stood up for me. She told the principal that I was more than that one moment. That I had potential, that I deserved a second chance. The crowd was quiet now, hanging on every word. Because of her I got that chance. Because of her belief in me, I found the courage to keep fighting, to follow my dreams, no matter how far away they seemed. Johnny looked out at the audience, but his gaze seemed to find one person in particular. That woman changed my life, he said simply. Evelyn's hands trembled, her breath caught in her throat. The moment was heavy with emotion, one that would soon become unforgettable. Johnny's voice grew softer, yet every word carried weight. She's here tonight, he said, his eyes scanning the audience, until they landed on a woman sitting quietly near the front. A ripple of surprise swept through the crowd, as cameras instantly turned toward her. The spotlight followed, casting a warm glow over Evelyn's stunned face. She sat frozen, heart pounding so loudly she feared it might echo through the entire room. Was he really pointing at her? Whispers spread around her seat, gasps, excited murmurs. She blinked, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Johnny smiled gently and said, "Please come up here." For a moment Evelyn hesitated, caught between disbelief and a rising flood of emotions. Slowly, she rose, the world around her fading into the background as all eyes focused on her. Her legs felt weak, and her breath hitched as she walked toward the stage, toward a moment she never expected, and could never have imagined. As she stepped into the light beside Johnny, the room exploded into applause, standing ovations, cheers and tears. Johnny reached out and took her hand, holding it firmly but tenderly. "You were the first person who believed in me," he said, looking into her eyes, with a gratitude so deep it filled the entire room. Evelyn's throat tightened, words failed her. The audience watched, moved beyond words, as this quiet, unassuming woman, once just a teacher in a small town, stood beside one of the world's biggest stars. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. She looked out at the crowd, and then back at Johnny, tears welling up in her eyes. It was a moment of recognition, not just for her, but for every person whose quiet kindness changes lives behind the scenes. And the night was far from over. There was still more to come, more surprises, more gratitude, more love. On the stage, the world seemed to pause, as Johnny reached out and pulled Evelyn into a warm, steady embrace. Tears welled up in both their eyes, a silent acknowledgement of years filled with struggle, hope, and unspoken gratitude. The crowd watched in quiet awe, sensing the depth of their connection. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a celebration of a bond that had shaped two lives forever. Johnny stepped back slightly, still holding her hands, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," he said simply, "for never giving up on me, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." He dropped to one knee before her, a gesture both humble and powerful. "This is for you," he said, handing her an award carefully crafted for this moment, a symbol of honor, respect, and everlasting gratitude. The audience erupted into a standing ovation. Tears streamed down faces all around the room, strangers moved by a story of kindness and belief that transcended fame and fortune. Evelyn's heart swelled. She tried to speak, but found only a whisper. "Thank you," she managed, voice trembling, "for reminding me why I never gave up." Johnny smiled, his eyes shining. "This is your moment," he said, gently encouraging her to raise the award. The applause grew louder, the energy in the room electric with love and respect. For Evelyn, this wasn't about the spotlight or the praise. It was about the quiet power of a simple act, believing in someone when they needed it most. And for everyone watching, it was a reminder that behind every success story, there are people whose faith changes everything. That night, Evelyn wasn't just a teacher, she was a hero, and the world finally saw her the way Johnny always had. Just when the applause began to settle, Johnny stepped forward once more, a sparkle of excitement in his eyes. "There's one more thing," he said, his voice steady and filled with warmth. "To honor everything she has done, not just for me, but for so many young people like me, I'm establishing a scholarship in her name." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking deep into every heart. "This scholarship will help aspiring actors from underprivileged backgrounds, giving them the chance to chase their dreams just like she helped me chase mine." Evelyn blinked, overwhelmed by the kindness and generosity behind this unexpected gift. Johnny continued, "And that's not all. For years, I've quietly supported the drama program at her old school, making sure it has the resources it needs to inspire and nurture the next generation of dreamers." Gasps and whispers filled the room. Evelyn's hands trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. "No one knew," Johnny said softly, "but it was my way of saying thank you, long before tonight." Evelyn looked out at the audience, feeling a deep sense of hope and gratitude, unlike anything she had ever known. Tonight was more than a tribute. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for her, but for countless young people who would now have a chance to believe in themselves. As Johnny took her hand once again, the audience rose to their feet, their applause echoing like thunder. Evelyn's heart was full. Because sometimes, the greatest gifts come when we least expect them, and from the people who believed in us all along. If this story moved you or gave you a new perspective on the power of belief and gratitude, please like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more true heartfelt stories. And if there's someone in your past who made a difference, maybe today's the day to thank them. Share this video with someone who needs to believe that the smallest acts of kindness never go unnoticed. Together, let's celebrate the quiet heroes who change lives in ways we don't always see. Thank you for watching.